Get comfortable. Wherever you are right now, let your body settle. Close your eyes if you'd like. Tonight, I want to take you somewhere that may or may not exist. A place of extraordinary beauty. A civilization of impossible sophistication. A city of golden spires and silver towers built on a ring of islands in the middle of a vast, warm sea. A place that, according to the stories, was swallowed by the ocean in a single day and a single night. Gone without a trace. This is the story of Atlantis. Before we begin, take a slow, deep breath. Let the weight of the day fall away. Let your shoulders drop. Let your mind go soft. The story I'm going to tell you tonight is almost 2,400 years old. It was first written down by a Greek philosopher named Plato, a man who shaped the course of Western thought. And in all those centuries since, no question he raised has captivated the human imagination quite like this one. Was Atlantis real? Explorers have searched for it in the Atlantic Ocean, in the Mediterranean, beneath the ice of Antarctica, in the jungles of South America, off the coast of Spain, and in the depths of the Caribbean. And still, no one knows. Tonight, we're going to walk through the whole story. Where it came from, what it described, who has looked for it, and what they found. By the time we're done, you'll understand why this mystery has endured for millennia, and why, perhaps, it was never meant to be solved at all. The year is 360 BC. In the city of Athens, a city of white marble and warm sunlight, of olive groves and open-air markets, a philosopher is writing. His name is Plato. He is 67 years old. He has already written some of the most influential texts in human history. And now, in two dialogues he calls Timaeus and Critias, he sets down a story that will haunt the world for the next 2,400 years. In these texts, Plato describes a conversation between historical figures, among them the Athenian statesman Solon and an Egyptian priest. In this conversation, the priest reveals something extraordinary. He tells Solon that 9,000 years before their time, there existed a great naval empire. A civilization of such power and sophistication that it had conquered most of the known world. This empire was called Atlantis, and it lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The description Plato gives us is remarkable in its detail. Atlantis, he writes, was larger than Libya and Asia combined. It was a continent unto itself, vast, fertile, and teeming with life. Its people were descended from the god Poseidon, lord of the sea, who had fallen in love with a mortal woman named Plato and built her a home on a hill at the center of the island. Around this hill, Poseidon carved alternating rings of land and water, creating a series of circular canals that protected the city at its heart. Imagine standing at the entrance to this city. You would see walls covered in gleaming metal, some in bronze, some in tin, and some in a mysterious third metal Plato calls orichalcum. A metal, he says, that shone like fire. Inside, there were palaces and temples, hot springs and cold springs, racetracks for horses, gardens with fountains, and a great harbor filled with ships from every corner of the world. By any measure, Atlantis, as Plato describes it, sounds like paradise. But paradise, in every story ever told, never lasts. Plato tells us that in the beginning, the Atlanteans were noble, wise, and virtuous. They lived simply, in harmony with their extraordinary gifts. But as the generations passed, something changed. They became greedy, arrogant, and hungry for power. They looked at the world beyond their island and decided it wasn't enough simply to be blessed. They wanted to rule. Their armies marched east across the Mediterranean, into Egypt, into Europe, conquering everything in their path. Until they reached Athens. The Athenians, Plato writes, stood alone. All their allies had abandoned them, and still they fought. And still they won, pushing the Atlantean armies back and liberating every people that had been conquered. But the gods had seen enough. Zeus looked down at the corruption of the Atlanteans and decided to punish them. Then Plato's account stops. The Critias dialogue simply ends, as if the manuscript were cut short. We never hear what Zeus said. What we know only from the Timaeus is the result. Violent earthquakes, floods, and in a single day and a single night, Atlantis was gone, swallowed by the sea, vanished beneath the waves as if it had never existed at all. For 2,500 years, scholars, explorers, and dreamers have asked the same question. Did Plato make this up? Or was he preserving a memory, however distorted, however ancient, of something real? Those who believe Atlantis was pure invention point out that Plato was above all a philosopher, not a historian. He was famous for constructing elaborate allegories to illustrate moral truths. Atlantis, they argue, was simply another thought experiment. But others aren't so sure. Plato was unusually specific. He gave dates, dimensions, names of kings across 10 generations, and described geography, geology, flora, and fauna in extraordinary detail. There is also the question of Solon, a real historical figure who did travel to Egypt. Egyptian priests were known to keep records going back thousands of years. Is it so impossible that among those records there was a memory of some great catastrophe, some lost civilization, that Solon brought back to Greece? In 1909, a scholar named K.T. Frost changed the conversation entirely. He noticed that the civilization Plato described, its architecture, its sea power, and its sudden catastrophic end, resembled a real civilization that had existed in the ancient world. The Minoans. They were a Bronze Age civilization based on the island of Crete. At their peak, they were among the most sophisticated peoples on Earth. Then, around 1600 BC, something happened. On a small island called Thera, known today as Santorini, a volcano erupted. Not just erupted, exploded. The Theran eruption is believed to be one of the largest volcanic events in human history. A massive tsunami would have rolled across the sea toward Crete. Ash would have blotted out the sun across the eastern Mediterranean for years. And the Minoan civilization declined rapidly, catastrophically. Within a few generations, they were gone. The parallels with Atlantis are hard to ignore. A great seafaring civilization, a catastrophic natural disaster, sudden disappearance. Many archaeologists today believe the Minoans were the real kernel of truth at the heart of the Atlantis story. Their memory preserved, distorted, and mythologized over centuries before Plato wrote it down. But not everyone is satisfied with that explanation. Plato was quite specific. Atlantis was in the Atlantic Ocean, beyond the Pillars of Hercules. In the 19th century, Ignatius Donnelly argued that Atlantis was real, located in the Atlantic, and the common ancestor of every ancient civilization on Earth. His ideas fell out of scientific favor long ago, but they planted something powerful in the popular imagination. The belief that somewhere beneath the Atlantic Ocean, the ruins of a great civilization are waiting to be found. And here is a genuine fact. The Atlantic Ocean contains a massive underwater mountain range called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. In some places, it rises close enough to the surface to form islands such as the Azores. No ruins have ever been found, but the seafloor has not been fully mapped. The ocean is very deep and very old. The simplest explanation is the one most classical scholars accept. Plato invented Atlantis entirely. He was constructing a moral lesson about the corrupting influence of power and wealth. Athens in his story represents the ideal. Atlantis represents the opposite. A society that had every advantage, squandered it through greed, and was destroyed as a consequence. In this reading, Atlantis is not a place. It is a warning. A second school of thought accepts that Plato built his story on a foundation of real events, but that those events were transformed, exaggerated, and relocated over centuries of retelling. In this view, the Minoan eruption of Thera is the most likely historical seed. The civilization that vanished into the sea is a memory of the Minoans, with the location shifted from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic and the timescale inflated from 900 years to 9,000. And then there is the third possibility, the one that keeps explorers awake at night. What if there is something we haven't found yet? The ocean covers 70% of our planet's surface. Much of the sea floor remains unmapped at high resolution. The sea gives up its secrets slowly, and it has been keeping them for a very long time. And so Atlantis remains, as it has always remained, just beyond our reach. A story told by one man 24 centuries ago. A civilization of impossible grandeur, swallowed by an impossible sea in an impossible single night. Perhaps it was never real. Perhaps it was always a dream. Or perhaps, somewhere beneath the dark and quiet water, under thousands of feet of cold and silence, the golden walls of a lost city are still standing, patient, waiting, keeping their secret. Sleep well.